If you saw one mouse in your house last night, that mouse wasn't lost. It wasn't passing through. It was comfortable, and that distinction changes how you need to respond to everything that comes next. Mice are neophobic. That's not a loose description. It's a documented behavioral trait. They spend days mapping a new environment before they feel safe enough to move through it in the open. So if you actually saw one, the cautious phase is already over. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what that single sighting tells you about the state of your home and why most people's instinct about what to do first is exactly backward. Let's get the hard part out of the way. There is no such thing as one mouse. That's not a horror movie line. It's just biology. House mice, Mus musculus, are social animals. They establish territories, share scent trails, and live in overlapping family groups inside a single structure. A genuinely solitary mouse is rare, and it's usually a young male who was pushed out of an overcrowded nest and went looking for new ground, which means even the lone wolf scenario ends the same way. He's not leaving, he's scouting. What's more common is that you see one because one is all your line of sight allowed you to see. Mice spend most of their time in wall voids, behind appliances, under insulation, areas you never look. The one crossing your kitchen floor at 1 a.m. wasn't the only one awake. It was just the one that ran the wrong route. The average household mouse population when someone first notices activity is 6 to 12 animals, sometimes more, and that number doesn't stay still for long, which brings us to math that most people have never actually sat down and done. Female house mice reach sexual maturity in 4 to 6 weeks. Gestation lasts about 19 to 21 days. A single female produces between 5 and 10 litters per year, with 5 to 8 pups per litter. Do the math on one breeding pair in January with no predators and a warm kitchen. You're looking at a population of 60 or more by early summer, and that's conservative because those pups start breeding within weeks of birth. This isn't pest industry fear-mongering. This is the actual reproductive biology of a species that evolved to lose most of its members to predation in the wild. Inside your home, those predators are gone. The food is reliable. The shelter is temperature-controlled. There's no population check running, which is why the framing most people use, "Let me catch the one I saw and see if there are more," gets the problem backwards. You're not trying to remove the individual. You're trying to understand how deep the situation already is. And here is where it gets stranger. Go back to what neophobia actually means in practice. Researchers studying mouse behavior in residential environments have placed novel objects, small boxes, new feeders, unfamiliar scent markers, in zones where mice were active. The mice detoured around those objects for days before approaching. Their fear of the new is not trivial. This is why a mouse moving openly across your floor means something specific. An animal that is genuinely cautious about a new cardboard box does not casually jog across an open room unless it has run that route enough times that the route feels like home. A nighttime sighting near the walls and baseboards is early stage behavior. The animal is still hugging cover. A daytime sighting in open space is something else. It usually means either the population density has gotten high enough that there's competition for nighttime feeding windows, or something disturbed the nest. Neither reading is a good one. Where you see it and when you see it are telling you something specific. Pay attention to both. Here's what people almost always get wrong about how a mouse got in. They picture a hole, a visible, obvious gap, something they'd notice walking past it. House mice can compress their bodies through an opening as narrow as 6 millimeters, roughly the diameter of a standard pencil. They don't need a crack you'd spot. They need a utility conduit that wasn't sealed flush against the wall, a dryer vent that's slightly loose at the exterior bracket, the gap under a door where the sweep has worn down on one corner. They also climb. Rough brick, wood siding, exterior foam board. The entry point isn't always at ground level, which is why checking just the perimeter at floor height misses a lot. And there's a mechanism that makes all of this persistent even after you think you fixed it. Mice mark their travel paths with urine.
invisible to you, highly readable to other mice. That chemical trail can remain on exterior surfaces for months after an infestation is cleared, essentially leaving a map for the next animal that finds the outside of your house. Sealing the entry point without cleaning the surrounding area is half a fix. Here's the detail that should actually shift your sense of urgency about this. Mice gnaw constantly. Not because they're hungry, because their incisor teeth never stop growing. They're open-rooted, which means they'll keep lengthening until they're a problem if the mouse doesn't wear them down. So they chew on wood, plastic, soft metals, pipe insulation, and the sheathing around electrical wiring. Fire investigators and pest management researchers have long pointed to rodent gnawing as a probable factor in a significant portion of house fires listed as cause undetermined. Some estimates from pest control literature suggest the figure may be as high as 20 to 25% of residential electrical fires with no identified origin. That's a difficult number to pin down precisely, because fire usually destroys the evidence. But the mechanism itself, bare copper wire enclosed in a wall near nesting material, is real and well documented. This is not a wait-and-see situation. That's the point. If you want to know when mice and other creatures are most likely to move into your home, by month, by room, and what's driving the behavior each time, we made the indoor creature calendar for exactly that. 12 months, every common household creature, what's active and where and what to do. Links in the description.
Response order matters here, and most people start at step 3. Step 1 is documentation. Before you set a single trap, look for evidence. Droppings along baseboards and behind appliances, dark and rice grain sized. Gnaw marks on food packaging or structural material. Grease smears at baseboard level where fur has repeatedly contacted the wall. And nesting material tucked into insulated spaces. This tells you where the activity is centered and how established it already is. Step 2 is sealing. Steel wool packed into gaps, held with caulk. Door sweeps checked on exterior-facing doors. Vent covers confirmed intact. Do this before or at the same time as trapping. Removing individuals while the entry stays open is a treadmill, not a solution. Step 3 is snap traps, placed perpendicular to the wall with the trigger end facing the baseboard. Not poison. Rodenticide kills mice inside wall cavities, which creates a secondary problem that is genuinely as unpleasant as it sounds. You don't want to trade one situation for a different one that's harder to reach. The strange thing about seeing one mouse is how manageable it makes the problem feel. Like you caught it early, like you're ahead of it. Maybe you are, but more often, what you caught is the edge of something that's already running in the background for a few weeks, quiet, in the spaces you don't check, on a schedule you don't keep. That's not a disaster. It's just a house doing what houses do, staying warm, staying stocked, leaving gaps that something small and determined is eventually going to find. If you want to know what else is moving through your walls and when, there's more here.